And welcome back, students, as we dive into our final lesson on conditionals, as we get into talking about switch statements. So with switch statements, as we kind of think about this, we've talked about if-else statements quite frequently, all right? We use these to test a condition, whether it's true or whether it is false. Well, there's another way that we can test things in Java, which is known as a switch statement. And it functions very similar to that of multi-way if-else statements. So, using if, else if, and else. So the general syntax of a switch statement, you can see here is a little convoluted, but we have a switch, which is a controlling expression. So this is usually some kind of Boolean thing. And then we have case with a case label. We're going to have it do some kind of code, put a break in there, do another one, repeat that all the way down, and then until we get to our default case. And so a little confusing. If else might make sense, this might be a little more confusing. So let's actually take a look at this with some actual code to kind of make that general code look a little more clear. So here I have int vehicle class, double toll. My switch is controlling expression. Right? So whatever that switch would be, it could be, for example, like the toll. If toll is blah blah blah, or if vehicle class is something, we usually put some kind of Boolean in here. But let's just look at this part right here. So if case 1, this is not a print line passenger car, break. Case 2, this is not a print line bus, break. Case 3, truck, break, unknown vehicle, break, etc. All right. A little bit easier to look at when you actually have some actual code in there. So let's actually analyze how the switch works. So controlling expressions are the int, char, short, or byte. Strings, of course, can be used as well in newer versions of Java, which is awesome. That determine pretty much what case is being used. Now, the name of the object being used as a switch is placed in parentheses called case labels. Now, no case label can occur more than once, and the default section is always last. So if we kind of go back here, we have our case labels in case this is 1, 2, 3. So the controlling expression in this case would be the int. All right, so we'd be looking at the int because these are numeric. If these were, let's say, doubles, they could be doubles. If it was a char, you could put a char in here, so like A, B, C, for example. And then, of course, the default case is always last. Now, break statements are what used to tell the program to return to the outside of a switch statement. Otherwise, it's going to keep just checking all the cases. So, for example, here I have case A. This is now the print line. Moving on to the next case. Case, it's a lowercase a now. This is now print line exit, break. All right. Then it would exit. All right. So this one is going to say moving on to the next case, exit, and then it's going to stop. Whereas if it's the default case, so let's say someone had typed B, it's just going to go ahead and break right away. All right, because it's neither A nor B. It jumps right to the default. So default is kind of like our else, where it acts as a catch-all. All right. Now here the code is going to, of course, as I already mentioned, print both statements because you notice that there is no break here in case A. Now default is very important as it acts as a catch-all, as I've already mentioned, for any cases that are not explicitly determined by the code. Now default technically is not really required, but it's highly recommended that you leave it in there just to act as a error catch, if nothing else. Even if it just says default break, it's good to have that in there because it can help handle weird things that might occur. So here is a sample code, and you can see in here I have my scanner, I have a demo. So scanner keyboard, and then I'm going to say enter in the number of ice cream flavors available. Int number of flavors is keyword next int, so I'm just simply getting that from the user. And so then this switch is equal to number of flavors. So whatever my variable name is here is going to go inside the switch statement into that controlling expression. So case 1, I bumped the keyboard there. Case 1, system out print line must be vanilla, break. Case 2, vanilla and chocolate, break. You'll notice case 3 has nothing in it. All right, so if they type 3, there's nothing there to stop it. All right, so here's a quick output. So if I say enter the number of ice cream flavors available, 1 must be vanilla. If I put in 15, it says nice selection because if you notice 15 is right here. Now, there is a catch-all here that says, I didn't anticipate. So if someone had, let's say, we have 500 ice cream flavors. Well, it's going to say, well, I didn't anticipate 500 ice cream flavors. So that is the reason why you put the default in there because it can act as that catch-all for those different situations. And again, if you look at 3, there's nothing there. So if someone typed 3, technically, it's going to go to 4. All right, and there is a pitfall I need to mention with switch statements. Now, the common error with switch statements is the exclusion of a break statement. Now, something like Eclipse won't necessarily give an error, as technically your code is technically correct. All right, there's no syntax errors. All right, but in our last case, whether it's the default or otherwise, also technically doesn't require a break, but it's always good practice to put one in there. So even though you don't have to put break for your default or whatever it is, it's good to have it in there, because if you do, it in case you decide, hey, I have to add an additional case to my code later, I'm already going to have the break in place. Plus, it's a lot cleaner and neater and a little bit more in convention with what you want to be doing. All right, and that's going to wrap up switch statements. They're a little bit more tricky, but of course you have that example to reference to kind of help you as you dive into this lesson. So I will see you next time.